Alright, today we're finding angles, and then ultimately we're finding everything we can on one of these triangles. First things first, how do we remember which one of those to use? Sine, cosine, or tangent? SOHCAHTOA, right? Sine, opposite over hypotenuse, cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent, opposite over adjacent. We'll identify those in our triangles in a minute. Alright, first two examples, just finding angles. As you can see, we have an x where an angle is. So we're either going to find this angle or this angle, and in this case, right, we're just going to find a single angle, the one with the x on it. And that means we must have two sides, and there you go, there are two sides for each of these two triangles. So first things first, always the same process. We're going to circle our angle. That's how we start every single time, no matter where we're doing these. Circle our angle, and then we identify the two sides that we have given you. There's one, there's the other, and you'll identify the 50 hopefully as your h, your hypotenuse, and your 18 as your adjacent. I think if it makes some sense to you, this makes it easy, right? Across from the x over here, this side would be the opposite side, the O, but we don't want to identify that. We just want to work with the A and the H. Looks like we have an A and an H. If I look up here at these guys, the only one with A and H is cosine C. So we will write that down for ourselves. Cosine. And the same as the angles really, or this finding the sides before, we take that x, we put it there where the angle would go, equals 18 over 50. All right, A over H. And now remembering from class, the tricky part about these is we just have to hit the second button on a calculator every time. And the beauty is we divide every time. No need to multiply. So if you punch in second cosine 18 divided by 50, you get 68.89 degrees, which would round up for us to be x equals, let's say, 69 degrees. If we wanted to do a decimal place, we typically do the tenths place, so it would be 68.9 degrees. So one or the other, depending on what we're asking for in class. Second example over here. Same thing. Circle our x, our angle, and identify our two sides. So let's see what we have. I'm going to move this guy over a little bit. Just enough. Right? First step, circle our angle. Second step, draw an arrow to our two sides and identify them. In this case, we have the 7, which is our opposite, and we have the 10, which is our adjacent side. So we have an O and an A. Looking at our example, we have tan, T. So let's write that out. We have tan, x, the angle, equals O over A, so 7 over 10, that's an ugly 7. Same process, the second button, then the tan button. 7 divided by 10 gives you x equals 35 degrees. Now my calculator, I have to do the ABC button, 7, ABC, 10. You may have to do the same on yours depending on which calculator you're using. Alright, in this example we have to find more than just one thing. As you can tell here, we're looking for angle F, length DE, and DF. So we have three things we're finding. This DF, this side DE, and this angle F over here. And the next example is the same way, and we have to approach these sort of different, but it's all the same things we've been doing. In this case, the best thing is finding angle F. We know this angle's 90, this angle's 68. We would add those together, and in doing so we have 90 plus 68 gives us 158. And then we take our 158 and we subtract it from 180. And we get 22. So this angle here, angle F, 22 degrees. No trig involved, no crazy algebra, just adding the other two angles and subtracting from 180. That was a snap in this problem, not like the previous two. Well, now we have to go way back. We have to find these sides that we're missing. So let's just do it. First one is DE that we're asking for, so why not find DE first? We'll identify that, I guess, with an X for now. As we did in the last problem, first step, circle our angle. Even though we're looking for sides this time, identify our 20 and our X. Looks like our 20 is our opposite side, and our X would be our adjacent side. Well, we have an O and an A. Just like the last example, that was tan, O and A. So we're going to write that down, tan. And we're going to write the angle. In this case, it's 68. The last two examples, that was X. But in this case, it is actually 68. We have 20 over X, as we have O over A. Now, here's the tricky part for these. You have to remember, do I multiply or divide? And my hint always is, if the X is on the bottom, we divide. Kind of think of it as we take the tan 68 and we slide it right on over there, and we're just going to do 20 divided by tan 68 in your calculator. Alright, so side DE, in this case our X that we called it, is 8.08. Now sure, you could do Pythagorean's theorem and use 8.08 and the 20 that we gave you to find DF. The only problem is, if your DE is wrong, your DF is going to be wrong. So we recommend that you set up a whole new trig problem, and this time identify these two sides. So let's get rid of some of this stuff here for us. Alright, the new one I'm going to do in purple. Stay here in my 68 and circle it. I'm going to use that 20 again because it was given to you. And this time I'm looking for this side over here, which we'll call Y. So the 20 is still my opposite side, so my O still works. And this time, this Y side is actually the hypotenuse. You have to remember that across from the 90 degrees, right, is always a hypotenuse. Alright. So looking at my purple letters, I have an O and an H. And this time up here, I'm going to use sine. So if I write this one out, I'll have sine. Look at, I'm still using 68 equals O, which is my 20, over my Y. So I'm looking for that side. Same rule applies as before. The variable, in this case Y, is on the bottom, just like it was X over here. So we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to sort of slide that guy underneath and do 20 divided by sine 68. And we get 21.57. So Y equals 21.57. That's our DF. 21.57. There, we found all the sides. Alright, here we go again. We have to find three things: angle A, angle B, and side AC. And again, one of these is usually pretty easy. In this case, it's going to be side AC. We go in our Wayback Machine and we remember, well, we have a right triangle, and we've given you two sides to the triangle. There's no trig involved here. You can do a squared plus b squared equals c squared, remembering that the 17, the hypotenuse, is always our c. We can just set up one of those Pythagorean theorem problems, so might as well do that. And let's see, I'm going to do, I guess we'll just do the a squared as a squared, and we'll do the 9 squared as our b, and the 17 squared as our c, of course, as it always has to be. Working our problem on down, we have 9 squared is 81, 17 squared is 289. Subtract 81 from both sides. Cancels out. Bringing my a squared all the way down here. I have a squared equals 208. And I know you remember, well, now we have to take the square root of both of these and reduce it nice and neat. Lucky for you, now we're accepting decimals. So you can take the 208 take the square root of 208, and it's 14.42. My bad, in a little square right here. Alright, now we found our AC, 14.42, done with all of our sides. You don't have to find that first, it was just my choice. Now I'm going to find angle A or angle B, and just because A comes first, I'm going to pick A first. Remember? And we're just going to circle A, because we're looking for it. I'm going to get rid of all this stuff if this lets me. It does not let me. So I'm going to shrink us down a little bit and move us around. Alright, identifying our two sides. We have an opposite side and we have a hypotenuse side. We have an O and an H. By now you should quickly realize that O and H would be sine. So we have sine, I don't know, we'll call this angle A, I guess. It is angle A, right? 9/17. Hey, the beauty of the angles is we're always dividing. Second button, the sine button, 9 divided by 17 for you is 31.97. Or 32 if we ask you to round to the nearest whole number. In this case, we'll write 32 over here. Make it nice and neat for us. Well, you have that other angle. So you have 90 degrees. You have 32 degrees. You're more than welcome to add them up, subtract them from 180, and find out that that's 58 degrees. Angle B is 58 degrees. That only works for you if your 32 degrees is correct. If your 32 degrees is wrong, your 58 is wrong, and you missed a heck of a lot of the problem. So your best bet may be just to do another trig setup and find a new angle.